No one intervened.
Welcome to Jacqui Just Chatters. I'm your hostess, Jacqui. People, I am so grateful for this podcast. Why, you logically ask? Because through it, I've met and connected with some really amazing people. I am getting to hear wonderful stories that I get to pass on to you. This episode, my guest is Jess Critchlow, my new friend. In her work life, she is a work coach, helping individuals and businesses understand themselves, how tough this life thing is, and how we can manage it a little better. In our conversation, we talk about her brave life choices, spending time with some Buddhist monks, and her home birth. I could have talked with her all day, honestly. Quick shout out to my husband for letting me buy a new stand for my microphone and not just using a bunch of boxes to raise it up to voice level. I love it. Thank you. There is something to be said about having the right tools for the job. You know, you got to appreciate those little things in life, folks. And remember, you can follow me on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, and iHeartRadio. Or you can find me, like, and subscribe on YouTube. My regular episodes come out every other Thursday. If you are enjoying these podcasts, I would be delighted if you shared with your friends, left a rating on Spotify, or a review on Apple Podcasts. Oh, those 5 stars never go amiss. In fact, hey, this is my birthday month. As a gift to me, I would love it if you selected your favorite episode and shared it with a friend. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, enough promo talk. Let's get on to the interview. Quick warning here. There is a tiny little bit that the audio gets a little scratchy and in and out. I thought about editing it out, but I really wanted the content, and it doesn't last that long. So just bear with it. It won't last for the whole thing. It's just a small portion of it. Sorry about it, folks. You know, technology, it's our friend. Welcome to Jacqui Just Chatters. I am so pleased to finally get you on my podcast. Now I get to ask you all the questions. And I've got quite a few.
Oh my gosh,
But
okay.
you know what? Let's start with like a quick introduction to yourself. Imagine you're at a swanky cocktail party and you are introduced to somebody for the first time and you've got, that 2-minute introduce yourself spiel kind of thing. So who are you, Jess Critchlow?
Well, first you have to know that I know this is audio, so no one can see, but like me and Queen Jack are hanging out. I'm in a hoodie. So like now I have to transport myself to a swanky where I'd probably be super sweaty and feel awkward. Cause I'm like, can't we just go like for a hike? Do we have to be doing this? But all right. Okay. Hi. Hi, Jacqui. I'm so grateful you had me come and play. So I'm Jess. I am a Canadian, hence the accent. Similar to a Michigander.
You don't have an accent to me.
That's because you're a Michigander. We're basically one and the
It's
same.
right.
I'm across the river from you. So
Right. Yeah.
we're compatriots. It's fine. But yeah, so I'm Jess. Oh gosh, what would be the most interesting things to know in 2 minutes? I've already wasted a bit with that sentence, but anyway. So I am a learning and development consultant by day, a coach and podcaster by late afternoon / evening, mom of 2 kids. I have a one-eyed poodle who's getting fixed today. And I'm just like trying to self-manage my little Lenny. But anyways, that's fine. And yeah, and I just love riffing on all things. Well, I could talk to you about anything, Jacqui, because I think we proved that when we did my podcast. Like I was like, should we just do a 4-hour podcast? Like, would anyone listen to it? Maybe not, but we could have done it. But yes, I
We
did
could have. It would have been
riffing
fun.
on all the things like confidence and finding your own way to do this messy human experience. Because the minute someone says to me, I know the answer, I'm like, oh, we're not going to be friends. Like, this doesn't work out for me. We're not gonna jam. That's fine. So we'll see what we cover today. But that's kind of that's my high level. That's my high level.
Okay, so you briefly hit on your podcast, which you
Yes.
are going to be launching soon, and
Mhm.
it your trailer really spoke to me, and I
Mhm.
loved the name of it, Chasing Breadcrumbs.
Mhm.
So tell us what does that mean, chasing breadcrumbs?
Oh, well, it came from my latest, what am I at? Maybe a third life crisis. I've had a couple. I'm now like almost halfway through probably, unless I get hit by a bus tomorrow. But anyway, so I have spent the first I'm at almost 40 years here, thinking that there is an answer that I just somehow am missing out on, right? So, like this whole personal development, we all have that little moment where we peek in the door of personal development and then get sucked in. But anyway, I worked in corporate and I'm one of those weirdos who love corporate. I really did. Like, I even liked going to meetings. I'm a sicko. But anyway, but I kept hearing things that I knew weren't true on my inside, right? So people would say like, "Oh, you're so confident for your age." And I'm like, "No, like I feel like shit all of the time. Like I never know what I'm doing. I'm always second guessing myself. My imposter syndrome, you're a fraud, is like screaming in my ear constantly." So I was like, there must be a solution. There is an answer that I'm just missing out on. So open the door to all of the all of the personal development things of like, I'm going to get a coach, I'm going to get a mentor, and I'm going to do this training, and I'm going to do that training, and I'm going to go to this seminar, and I'm going to read this book, and I'm going to listen to these courses, and all of that, thousands of hours and dollars later, to find out, oh, like there is no one way. Confidence isn't this like thing that you just get and then you're good. It's just like
No.
tools that help you show up and do your work in the world, even when you regularly second guess yourself. Because hello, welcome to the human experience, right? And and then because this is the joy, like, and then it's almost like every new, I don't want to say level, it's a bit too Mario Brothers, but like every new thing, every new experience, it's like all of that just disappears and I forget the lesson. And I'm like, oh, there must be an answer to being a mother. There must be an answer to being an entrepreneur. There must be one way to do this right. And I inevitably search for that one way, have a big, messy burnout, and learn the lesson again. So my podcast came about from my 5 years as an entrepreneur thinking, but all of these people must have the secret. They must have the one way to do this in a way that is sustainable and doesn't burn you out, and you do what you love, and people that you would love to work with actually can find you in this bonkers internet of all the things and all the people everywhere. And so I, hired the people and fell into a messy burnout because Jacqui, I mean, it was just all the things that, of course it works. Of course, I didn't get bad advice at any point, by the way. I hired beautiful people who absolutely know what they're doing. And it didn't work for me, right? It was things that felt wrong for me. And I kept pushing through because I live in the world of coaching. Like, and I know you and I have talked about this before. We're like, if you feel fear or if you feel discomfort, that means you have to push harder. Sometimes that can be true. Sometimes it's because it's wrong for you. Like your integrity does sound different from your imposter syndrome. And the trick is I hadn't really learned to understand the difference between those two voices. So fell into a swamp of burnout. I just quit doing all of the things. I had some clients who I love and adore, and my clients never burn me out. So I kept working with them. But yeah, and I just did a lot of laying in my hammock, staring off into the distance. My poor partner was like, okay, I guess I will have to make more of the money because it looks like you've stopped wanting to make any of the money. I'm like, yes, correct. I will be drinking tea if you need me here. And it came to me that I want to sort of bang the drum of there is no answer. There are ideas, there are experiments, there are things you can try, but there is no one way. Like, there's just not. I mean, for God's sakes, if oncologists now know there is no one way to treat cancer, I think we can admit there's no one way to just do life. Like, there's just not. So, yeah. So that's what sparked me to get on the old Zoom with very interesting people, so they could also like bring into my bandwagon if there is no one way. Stop trying to find the one way. Stop trying to do it the way they're doing it, because I guarantee you it won't work for you. Even though it works for them and it works for them beautifully, it won't work for you. So yeah.
I have to applaud the endless enthusiasm you had of like you kept thinking like there's going to be a solution, and you kept trying like all these new things and like I'm going to try this one. Ooh, that didn't work. But you know what? No, that next one, that next thing, it's going to solve all my problems. Like how you just kept going after it. I don't think I would have given up so much faster and been like, what the heck? But I applaud your enthusiasm. Like you just were like, nope, I can solve this problem and I can do this. And that says a lot about who you are. You truly are kind of an optimistic person. That
You're so
that
good to me.
you were just holding on. You were gonna solve this. And the thing is, I don't know if you realized you solved it.
Yeah. Ironically.
You
Yeah, I
did.
did.
You
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
You solved it. It's not the answer you wanted it to be.
Well, and here, okay, I swear I'm not going to spend this whole conversation shitting on. Oh, can I swear? I probably can't swear.
I'll put a warning. It's fine. Just
Okay,
swear.
throw a bleep over top of me if you need. What happens a lot in the coaching industry, and a big part of my job is coaching. It's about a quarter of what I do. So I am not demeaning coaching as a profession, as a skill, as an offering. I'm really not. What I will say though, and where I think people need to be much more careful, is what I see a lot in the coaching space is if it's not working for you, it's because you're doing it wrong. Because it worked for me. I'm a millionaire. So if it's not working for you, you're just not doing it right. You're not trying hard enough. You're not believing hard enough. You haven't let go of your limiting beliefs enough. You haven't gotten high vibe enough. F off. It doesn't not work because I'm doing it wrong and you're doing it right. It doesn't work because it doesn't work for me. And and I'm not saying all coaches do that. I'm just saying that is something that is in the coaching space that people need to be very vigilant about. If someone tells you that the method didn't work because you're not high vibe enough, or you haven't given up your beliefs enough, or you have inner child stuff, or you have this, or you have that, run. Run, because the arrogance is really, really harmful. Like, maybe that stuff could be true. It also could just not be the tool for you, the process for you, the methodology for you.
Yes.
And if someone isn't willing to explore that with you, get the H out of there. Get out of there. Oh, run.
There's the passion of the convert, that somebody has discovered this method. They love it.
That's
It's
a good way of putting it.
like, oh my gosh. Okay. I can't tell you how many people have talked to me about stupid gratitude journals. Okay. I cannot stand flipping gratitude journals. I get it. I get that people love them and that they get miles out of them. Like it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
That it never, I was like, nope, this isn't doing anything for me. But then I don't know where I found it. I found a twist that actually kind of worked for me. It was just be mindful. Like, hey, right now, look around your surroundings and be like right now, I can look out my window and there's this beautiful blue sky and these fluffy white clouds and green trees and the color of nature. It's just beautiful. It's just gorgeous. And I'm like, you know what? I take a second and I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous. And that's what people who do gratitude journals get out of it. It's that moment of like, oh, I'm feeling good, of I'm feeling a positive happiness. And that gratitude journal of being forced to be thankful for crap never made me feel good. It made the 13-year-old in me rebel. Like, don't tell me what to do.
Mm.
But when I stop and be mindful and I look at what's around me, then I'm filled with a sense of calm and a
Mm.
sense of belonging. And I'm like, that works for me. And they're similar. They're in the same family, but they're not the exact same thing. And one works for me and one doesn't. And that's exactly what you're saying. You've got to try what works on for you. Is there anything that you've tried on that you found that you're like, oh, this fits me. This is my size.
Oh yeah. But okay, first though, I laughed at your example of the gratitude journal because you just made me laugh. And also I remember this is when I lived in England. Like talk to a British person about keeping a gratitude journal. Oh my God. You will see an eye roll so hard you wonder how they didn't dislocate something. But I told an IT manager I was working with in England, I'm like, oh, like I have this gratitude journal and I really think you should do it. And I use the should word, which like alarm bell, right? Like never a good idea. Anyways, he looks at me, he's like, tell me about this. Of course, this like delightful British accent that I can't do. I just sound like, oh, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins. So, and my husband regularly is like, don't do a British accent. It's terrifying. He's British, so he knows. Anyway, so I told him about it. I'm like, oh, I write down at the end of the day, I think back and I find just even the simplest things. Like I had a grapefruit and it was beautiful. And it was so, and he just looked to me and went, so you want me to be grateful when I've had a bad day? I'm like, yes, train your brain to look for the beauty in the world. And he went, sounds like you're asking me to polish a turd. No, thanks. And left my office. I was like, cool, fair.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
Anywho, doesn't work for everyone. No, and
No.
it's so funny. I left. I will get to some things that have worked for me, by the way. But one other thing that you did remind me of. So I have this amazing client. He's like he's a project manager in a company here in Canada, and he is like, oh my God, I just love him. And this is probably our 6th call now where he was like, yeah, so I want some new tools to work on this thing. And I keep declining. I'm like, no, keep working on the 3 we've already talked about. And I realized I hadn't done, I do so many things poorly. And one of the things I did really poorly is I didn't tell him why. So I left him this voice note last week. I was like, yeah, I want to be clear about why I'm refusing to give you new and different things. It is not because I think these are the answer, by the way. It's just because we're playing quasi-experiment game right now. So we're controlling variables. You're going to keep doing these 3 for at least another 2 weeks. And then at the end of that, doing it consistently, you get to say, Jess, you're bonkers. I hate doing these. They don't help. And I go, great. And we throw them in the garbage and we try other ones. But you have to try and legitimately try. And then
Yes.
you get to go, I hate it and I'm never doing it again. And I go, cool. Sounds great. Let's just throw it in the garbage. So that is always my caveat for people is you gotta give it a go. And by the way, give one thing a go. You don't do 14 things. Like even if something like I wanted to brush my teeth twice a day. Great, just do that. Just focus on flossing for 2 weeks. Don't worry about your journal and then the sunrise yoga thing and then the prayer thing. And just brush your teeth. That's great. Just do that one thing. What are some things that have worked for me? Journaling. # I'm a stereotype. Journaling works. I know. And the worst part is I'm one of those people who has at any point, my husband laughs. He's like, it looks like you're in high school because I carry around about 12 notebooks because they all have a different purpose. I've got like a wish one, write my wishes, a gratitude journal. I'm going to write like dearest Jacqui now, I think at the top just for that. I've got my list like riffing on things, though I must admit that usually turns into a to-do list, but I have a specific to-do list journal. Oh God, it's sad. So journaling does help because anything that stays in my brain just becomes a cesspool of like self-doubt and imposter syndrome and gremlin talk. Even if it's something like I have to fold laundry, if I don't write it down, my brain goes, yeah, because you're an effing loser. Like it's insane what happens in there.
No, I understand. Like you got to get it out. You got to get it out because otherwise you focus on it and then you're worrying about forgetting it.
Yeah.
And nope, I'm a
Yeah.
big
You're with
believer
me on the
in
get it out.
lists.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep.
So definitely
I
get out
don't
yet.
have a stack of notebooks, but I have at least one, and then I do have a separate one for my book where I put
Oh, yes,
ideas
like
for my book.
ideas. That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm only at 2.
Now I want to ask you more about your books. But okay,
Okay.
maybe we
No,
can get
because
there. Maybe we get
it's
there.
your
I
story time.
know.
Because you've already alluded to this a couple times, and I can't wait anymore. I am dying to hear the England story
Oh gosh,
of
yeah.
what brought you that, how it happened. Like I saw your little teaser, and I'm like, nope, I gotta have it all.
Okay, well, it is slightly more mainstream and 1995 romantic comedy than anything else, but
Oh, lay it on. Okay, I'm
let's
all happy
see.
now.
So, one of my best friends, you have your girl pod that you've been friends with since you were like 16, still got my girl pod. One of those gals went and taught English in Korea because that is a very common, not very common, I shouldn't say that. It is really brave and exciting and cool, but it is like one of those career paths for those of us who went to school and then went, ruh-roh, I don't
I
know
thought
what I
about
want
doing
to
that for
do
5
now.
minutes.
Yeah, right? And you're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I need some money because I have student debt. So what shall I do? So it is a career path, a very exciting, cool, brave one. I'm not downplaying it, but so she went and did that. One of my girl pop girls, and she met a British boy over there because of course there's so many expats over in South Korea, and they ended up like having a relationship. They ended up being long distance. Then she moved to England. I went and visited them in England. He's great. Like he moved to Canada for a bit. I got to know him. Great. He's awesome. Shout out to Alec. Not that he would ever listen to this, but love ya. And then they're getting married. They decided to get married in Canada, and they asked me to be their officiant. Now, I am not legally able to do that. So the legal marriage papers they signed at City Hall, but I did their kind of ceremony for more the, ceremony reception type thing. So
Oh,
I'm up
that's
there.
so
They
nice.
joked that I was the vicar because that's who would do it in England. So I was the vicar. And then sure enough, when I arrive, I meet Alec's little brother, who wasn't even supposed to come. Like it was a last minute thing that he ended up being able to book a flight. He flew out just for the weekend to Canada from London. He lived in London, England. And I like gave him a little wave at the door, and I was like, oh, he's so little and sweet. Isn't he a little cutie patootie? Never really thought anything more about it. And then we sat beside each other at the wedding and just got along like nothing, just got along. I was like, oh, I don't know. It's kind of cute. Like he's a little cutie patootie. We got along really well and we stayed in touch. And then I had said, as a polite Canadian does, by the way, not meaning anything, I said, well, you're only here for a couple days. If you ever want to come back, like you could stay with me. Like I'll actually show you around. We'll do a bit of a tourist thing. He said, great, I'll look at flights. I was like, ew, no. That's like when you say, hi, how are you? And someone actually gives you the answer to that. I was like, no. What do you mean you're looking at flights? I just was being polite, but I'm like, okay, well, it's too late now. Throwing out there, weirdo. I was like, okay. And he came to visit, and then we, sparks flew, and we dated long distance for a bit. And then I was like, well, I want to quit my job. You don't want to quit your job. I'm going to quit my job and move to England. And he was like, that's a great idea. And that was essentially it. And I really thought about, it was an interesting time. It was one of my other quarter life crises where I was like, oh God, I'm working in HR. I work like 60, 70-hour weeks. I cry often. I'm like, is this really what I'm going to do until I'm dead? Like, oh my God, oh God. So it was one of those moments where I'm like, I'm just going to sell
You were ready for a change.
and just, yeah. So sold all my stuff because I was like, I don't want to store anything. I want a fresh start because this is what I do. I like to do just sweeping gestures at times. So I sold all the things, sold my car to my Aunt Nancy. Shout out to Aunt Nancy. She actually might listen to this. Booked a one-way ticket.
Hi, Aunt Nancy.
My suitcase. Aunt Nancy's great. She's a yogi. She's fantastic. And off I went. And I was not prepared, Jacqui. I was like, it's England. Everyone speaks English. I basically will just be like, it's all the same. Yeah, I always think things through. It's basically what I did when I had kids. I was like, let's have a kid. It'll be fine. No, it's
Uh,
not. Anyway, yeah.
it's a similar language.
Yeah, similar. Except I must admit, my first job when I got over there, I worked at this insurance company. And I never did learn to understand one of the managers who's from like Northern England, almost Scottish border. I did a lot, Jacqui. I did a lot of like, ha ha, cool. Okay, well, you send me an email about that. Send me an email. And and it turns out it was something like he just wanted to know if I wanted to put money in on someone's birthday card. But I said, send me a quick email because I don't know what you're saying ever. I never know what you're saying, and it's so stressful.
The
Anyway,
northern accent
it's
is
tough, man.
it's yeah, that's a thick one.
It's a tough one. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the move to England.
How long did you live there?
So I lived there for 5 years, almost to the day, like a week short of 5 years.
Wow.
And we lived in London, and it was.
Aren't you posh?
I know. We didn't live in posh areas. Let me be clear. It was not
Well,
Chelsea.
okay, first off, let's talk about the fact you didn't live in London, because nobody lives in London. Like this.
Well, ish. So
It's you're what
it is
section
a
of London did
little
you live?
different. Like if you say I live in New
Marylebone
York,
or
but you actually don't live in New York. You live in London is a little bit different because there's so many boroughs that all count as the city of London.
right.
So I was in
That's
London, but I was
okay.
in, let me see, Zone 2, which if anyone ever lived in London, you'll know what I mean. So Zone 2 is like, it's pretty close to the center of London. That was
That is.
Putney and then Clapham, and then we moved out to Rains Park, which is like basically posh people call it Wimbledon North. It's not. It's Rains Park and it's grotty. Like it's just it's not Wimbledon. It's Rains Park. Trust me. Different. Yeah, so that's where we lived. And we lived, this was all South London. So there's like a North London, north of the river. We were South London. And it was amazing. And it was my first real test of I guess like, am I actually good at my job? Because so many of us who have like a pretty get lucky, and I did. I worked hard, but I got lucky with like amazing mentor who I'm still friends with today, and a really great company that actually let you do things. You know, some companies are like, we're going to give you challenging assignments, and the challenging assignment is like file some papers for 3 years. Like I was at a company that legit gave people chances to both fail and soar. But this was my first test of like, was it a fluke that I was good at working? You know what I mean?
You had to
Was
prove
it a
yourself.
fluke? Yeah, it felt like that. And I was like, oh, job searching, Jacqui. It is the ultimate, one of the top 5 soul destroying, ego destroying, confidence destroying practices that you will ever do. Like, oh man. In a city like London, there's tons of jobs, which is great. But I would say I got rejected for probably about 15 to 20 jobs a day. One of the practices that I really got into when I was job searching in London and in this new place, and I had no friends, and like, yeah, I had Ollie, obviously my partner, but we'd been long distance. So had to have this whole new dynamic we had to figure out. His brother kind of hated me. I would argue still probably does a little bit because he'll never listen to this podcast. So Tom, I can admit you don't like me and it's fine. You can't like everyone. It's fine. So that was tough because they lived together and I was staying with them. That was
Oh.
awkward. That was like, when you walk into a room and someone like gets up and leaves and it's like, cool.
Oh my gosh, that's cold.
Cheers. You can't be everyone's flavor. So it was hard. And one of the things I did, it sounds so simple, but trust me, I had to really force myself to do it, so I do my job searching for the first 3 hours of the day, which is a lot. And you just get rejected all the time, but 3 hours. And then I had to get up and I had to go for a walk. And I had to not check my phone. And I had to not think about the fact that I was unemployed and running out of money and didn't have any friends. I didn't have a single friend. I just had to go for a walk and just, to your exact example earlier, just be in like where my feet were. So go for a walk along the Thames, like go and have coffee and just have coffee and not be ruminating. Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just sit in our apartment and be sad. Like that was what I wanted to do. But I had to remind myself, like, I'm in freaking London, England, a place I've wanted to. I'd been there for visits a few times in my life, but I wanted to live for years. Like, I
Living's
didn't wanna
not
miss
visiting.
what was in front of me just because some of it was sad. So I had to get up, be where my feet were, and just enjoy like the simple things that I could enjoy. Like I could go for a walk. That was free. I could go for a walk along the river, totally free. I could go for a walk in Bishop's Park. It was beautiful, totally free. So I had to really, mindfulness is how you said it. And that's exactly right. I had to really practice that because that was hard for me.
Now, what is an example of like when you knew you were living in a foreign country? Because like I said, visiting and living are not the same thing. So when was a time you were like, oh yeah, I'm not living at home anymore.
Okay.
I am indeed in a foreign country.
So it actually technically that moment happened before I moved there, but it's still so relevant. I'm going to share it with you. So I visited England to decide if I was going to move, basically. That's the summer before I moved. I moved in the fall. I went the summer to do a final, like, am I going to move here? And I went up to visit my friend who was still living in England at the time with, how I met this guy, obviously is now her brother-in-law. So I went up to Birmingham to visit them. And I was having a freak out one night. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So I'm going to call Ollie because he'll calm me down and it'll be great. And I picked up the house phone. I knew his phone number and I couldn't figure out how to call him. I tried dialing the number. That didn't work. I was like, do I need an area code? What's the area code? How do I dial out? I couldn't call him because I didn't know how to use a phone in England. It is different. Like you have to dial a certain code for London. And I couldn't figure it out. It was different from when you're just texting someone. It's like, I just started crying. I just started sobbing. I was like, I can't even use a freaking phone here. Like I've known how to use a phone since I was 5 and I can't use it here. I can't move here. I can't even use a phone. So I texted him and I was like, I'm freaking out. I can't figure out how to call you. I don't know what to do. And he was like, okay, I will call the house phone. Just answer it the first ring. Cause it was late. It was like, I don't know, 11:30 or 12. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't know how to use a phone in Canada either. I'll just show you how. It's okay. I was like, yeah, no, okay, yeah. He was like, okay, yeah. But it was this moment of like, I don't know how to use a phone here.
Now, the Buddhist monks. I want to hear about the Buddhist monk story.
Yeah, so this was Ollie and I were engaged to be married. It was both a green card and a love marriage. It was basically like, well, my visa runs out in a year, like my residency card. And I was like, and there's not really a good way for me to get a visa other than getting married. And Ollie's like, yeah, I guess we should just get married then. He did do a proposal later that was romantic when we went on a vacation, but it was basically one of those like, well, we're going to be together forever anyways. Like that's the plan. So I guess we'll do that. Plus we were in love and blah, blah, blah. So all the, both. It was a both and. When people
He's
ask
a
me like,
practical man,
is
is what
it a
you're
green
telling
card
me.
marriage? I'm like, yes, but also a love marriage. It was both. So that's fine. We're practical folk. Like it was also my engagement ring. I said, don't spend more than like 200 pounds on this thing because I would rather spend that money on a trip. So like, don't be dropping a bunch of money on an expensive ring. That's bonkers. He's like,
I gave my husband a budget for my engagement ring too, that he wasn't allowed to spend more than X because I knew he would.
Well, yeah, it was like, I don't need, like, my love language is not gifts at all. So it's like, just, that's a waste of our money essentially, because it's ours. So it's like,
I'm like, we're going to buy a house.
yeah.
Put the money in a house.
Like, I want to go on a honeymoon to Greece. So we'll put that money in a bank account. Like, don't worry about that. But hey, to each his own. Some people, the ring is really heartfelt and important. So more power to you.
Right.
Again, the theme of, God, do it your way. There is no
right.
right way. Do it your way. It's fine. So we were engaged to be married and Ollie had a bachelor party planned with his buddies, of course, or stag do, as they call them here. And I did have some friends through work, but like all of my, my core girlfriends were mostly in Canada. Like my other friend I think they'd already moved back or had been planning to move back. No, I think they had moved back at that point. My friend who I met Ollie through. Anyway, I was like, well, I'm going to see my girlfriends when we go home because we legally got married in England and then did the ceremony and everything back in Canada. I said, I'll see them then, but I want to do something too that weekend. But I don't want to ask like my 4 work friends to like, well, go on like a vacation to Spain with me for a hen do, as they call them. So I was like, I know what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do a Buddhist retreat. So I'm going to do that. And Jacqui,
Okay.
the theme of my life is pull the lever and figure out the details later. So I found one retreat.
Bachelorette party / head night is hanging out with Buddhist monks. Just so I'm clear on this.
And a lot of Buddhist lay people as well. There was one guy I met there. Oh my God, Jacqui, you would have loved him. He cracked me up. So I'm at this, and let me be clear, Buddhist retreats, and I say this because I'm one of the people, so I feel like I get to say this. It only attracts a pack of weirdos. Like, it's all just a pack of just weirdos, including myself, all in tents in a forest in the middle of England with some Buddhist monks, like with a big, huge meditation tent that they build. It like, oh, it was incredible. And one guy says to me, because of course I'm like, hello, trying to like, and I'm asking me like, oh, and meet this guy. I'm like, oh, do you do retreats often? He's like, yeah, oh God, I love Buddhist retreats. I do at least 2 a year, usually with this Buddha field. That was this one. I was like, oh, that's great. He said, yeah, that's my 2 things I do to escape my mind. I do Buddhist retreats, and then I also go take a ton of drugs and go to drum and bass concerts. I was like, oh, cool, neat. Neato. I'm like, how excited that. So
you're making lots of interesting friends.
It was great. And then there was one guy I met who lived off the grid, just like in the forest. He's like, yeah, I just, I'm like, but like, do you go to the grocery store? He's like, no, I just forage. I'm like, oh, like, neat. I don't know what to say to any of this, but it was, my only struggle with it, because it was beautiful. So they go through and they there's sitting meditation 5 times a day, and then you also do there's a word for it, I don't remember now, but your community service. So like it's run by the Buddhist community, but then everyone contributes, so you get a job while you're there, similar to like if you go and stay at an ashram or something, you get a job, and part of that job is to practice mindfulness and giving back. So you're meant to not like stick on a podcast, you're meant to just do the thing mindfully. So mine was evening dishes. So I did the dishes in the evening. Anyway, but yeah, so they ring they go through the forest. We all have tents set up all over this forest. They go through and ring the gong for meditation, group meditation moments. And I think the first one's at sunrise, and then they go through the day. And yeah. And yeah, one of them I skipped because of course, whenever you try to do something like this, your brain comes out in a full frontal assault, right? My brain was like, F this noise. This is pointless. I am not doing this. I'm not doing another meditation, just sitting and breathing with people. Yeah, so my brain was having heyday. Another one, we were doing loving kindness meditation, right? It's like an hour and a half. This is beautiful, guided. And of course, I'm thinking like, I'm going to be so loving. I'm so loving. I'm going to be great at this. And I get in, and this whole, because of course, right? Like the minute the universe always goes, hold my beer. So I get in, I'm like, I'm going to be so good at loving everyone. And one person next to me began to cry during the meditation because it is really moving. And I was like, oh, that's moving. And then he started crying louder, and then he started crying louder. I was like, this effing guy is messing with my loving meditation. Like if he would just be quiet, I could do better loving. Yeah. So it was a spiritual journey. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Really bringing out your loving side. You're like, I'm going to be the most loving they've ever seen.
If only this guy would shut up with his crying, I could be so loving right now. So I had to confront some things about myself that wasn't,
another story I want to hear about. The bathtub baby.
Oh, well, bathroom floor baby, but yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Bathroom
Yeah.
floor baby.
Bathtub baby sounds classier than what I did. Yeah. Well, okay. So both my kids were born at home. And I want to be clear about why, because some people are like, oh, weirdo hippie, which I am. But my bigger reason for having my kids at home instead of in hospital was one, both my kids, so one was born in England, one was born in Canada, and I live super close to a hospital. So like the midwives assured me, like, look, if anything's going remotely wrong, we'll have you in an operating room the exact same time as if you were in hospital. Because we call ahead, they have to prep it. Like whatever hospital, like when you see things on medical dramas on TV, that's not how it works. Quote unquote emergency surgery, they have to prep an OR. They don't just race you in with someone sitting on you on a gurney. Like they prep the OR, they get everything ready. She said, so you're either way, if you need any interventions, you're good. Because I was so close to a hospital, both my home births. So I was like, yeah, I think I want to do homework because, Jacqui, I have stuff with authority figures. You know what I mean? Like I have stuff. If an authority figure, like a police or a cop, same, or a doctor or a nurse says we need to do this, I just go, okay, I guess you're the boss of all the things. I'm working on it. Okay, we all go to therapy for our own stuff. I'm working on it, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to have like an experience that I wanted to have. Like I knew I would. And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with hospital births. Let her rip. Do what feels right for you. Go where you feel safe. Go with the people who you feel good with. Like awesome. I just knew that some intern would walk in the door, say, I want to check your dilation, and I'd let some strangers stick their hands up my goods, and I would be mad and resentful, but I wouldn't advocate for myself. But I knew I would in my space. So that was the whole home birth thing. So I had Ray at home in England, and it was, the whole thing. I'm sitting in the big tub, like floating around. Give birth was great. Baby's head came out. I literally said to the midwives, "Oh my God, what do I do now?" I was like, what do I do? Am I supposed to push or something? They're like, of course, just do what your body wants. And I went, screw that. I'm going to push her out. So like, it was, I didn't know what was going on. I was freaking out. So it's fine. It's fine. And then my beloved little Ivy, my second baby, it's different, right? Like, because I'd given birth before and it was fine. Like I don't have horrible stories. Like when people are like, oh my God, it was the worst thing ever. I'm like, mine was awesome. Like it was cool. I've never felt more badass than when I was giving birth, man. That was awesome. So I was feeling pretty confident about this birth. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like Ray, my first, I had about the time contraction started when she was born, a little over 12 hours. Again, not 12 hours of labor. Chill out, any women listening who are thinking of having babies. Like 45 minutes of labor, but like almost like period cramps. Like, what's happening, right? Like I knew I was in labor. So I was like, okay, we're going to have lots of warning. It'll be fine. Didn't count on the fact that second births go faster. Didn't plug that into my calculation. So went into labor in the middle of the night with my little beloved Ivy, my little second Bubba. Middle of the night, but I'm like, oh, it's going to be ages. I'll just go back to sleep. And at this point, it's about 5:30. My contractions are like getting, again, not painful because I'm blessed with, Jacqui, I come from a long line of people who had like 82 kids each. Like my uterus is ready to rock and roll. So it's good. I've got the DNA of a birthing gal. I got this, right? Like it's all good. So not painful, but it's like funky enough that I'm like, I don't think I can lay down. Like I think I just got to stand up. I'll be more comfortable. So I kind of get up, start floating around a little bit. Ray wakes up. It's about 5:30, maybe 5:45, and Ollie comes out and my partner, and I'm like, okay, nothing to panic, not a big deal. I'm going to run a bath because I'm in labor. And he's like, oh my God. Well, I better call the midwives. I was like, oh God, don't bother them. Like it's going to be hours. Yeah, it's going to be hours and hours. Like I'm not having regular contractions at all. Some of them are 2 minutes apart. Some are 10 minutes apart. I'm like, it's all over the map. We've got probably like 8 hours at least. He's like, okay, if you're sure. So he gets Ray set up with a movie downstairs and he's like, well, I'm going to just call the midwives and just let him know. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Do that. So he calls him, lets him know. And then as he's on the phone with them, my water breaks. I'm like, oh, well, you might just want to let him know my water broke. He's like, okay. I said, we're still hours away. He's like, okay. Half an hour later, he comes in the bath, and I run a bath at this point because I'm like, I'll be more comfortable. So I get in the bath, maybe 1 minute in there, and I'm like, I can't lay down. I don't know how. When you see these movies where women are shown in labor laying down, I'm like, no. Oh, wow. Laying down is the only time it's uncomfortable. You're standing up, you're good. So I'm like, I don't want to lay down. So I get up and I'm like, oh, things feel a little funny. So I, check. I'm like, oh, crap. This is what happened out loud. I'm not kidding you. I went, oh, crap. The baby's head is about to come out. Oh, God. I'm like, oh, the midwives aren't here. And this is again what I thought, because people forget when you're giving birth, you have all these hormones. You're basically high, man. You are high as a kite. I went, I think I can push it back in. And then I think I can buy some time.
There's a snooze button, right?
Yeah, like that's fine. That's not biologically an option, by the way, which I was too high on birthing hormones. I was just like, I think I can do it. So I said but I'm like, oh, because at that point, baby's just coming. Whether you push or not, baby's jumping out. That's how it works, right? So I'm like, oh no. Ollie comes up. He's like, hey, everything okay? I was like, I think you should call the midwives because the baby's coming. He's like, oh God, what do you mean? I said, yeah, baby's coming. He comes over, rubs my back. I just snapped. I was like, don't touch me. He's like, oh God, okay. So he just like stands there against the wall. He's on like in detention in school. He's just standing there. And I'm like, I'm on all fours on the bathroom floor and out comes baby. So I grab her and I put her on my chest and I'm like, she's here. And Ollie's just going, oh my God. And to this day, he always says, the thing that I found the most magical, beautiful, empowering day of my life was truly one of his most traumatic experiences. Like, he's just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't do anything. So I was like, you should call the midwives again. He's like, oh yeah. So he calls the midwives. He's like, the baby's born. And they're like, okay. He said, they're like, here's what we're going to, because they're used to dealing with hysterical husbands. Right. I was fine. They put me on the phone. I'm like, hi, I'm doing great. They're like, that's good. Okay. Ollie back on. I'm like, okay. Because I'm just like high on oxytocin. I'm like, I'm good. but here's my one thing that I will say for anyone listening who like has a friend who's pregnant or is pregnant or thinking about pregnant. That story worked for me. I do not want you to use this story. Try to convince your friends to have a baby on a bathroom floor. Everyone gets to birth in a way that feels good and safe for them. Okay? They do not have to try to do it my way. I don't have to try to do it their way. We just whatever works for you. What raised birth taught me, becoming a mom taught me more than anything else, I think, well, along with like patience, but what it taught me is that even good, beautiful, amazing things sometimes have grief attached. And no one told me that. No one, like, it was just, oh, it's a beautiful thing. You have this beautiful, healthy, wonderful baby. And all I was supposed to feel was joy. But I felt grief because my life as I knew it was over. And that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
This new life is amazing. And I wouldn't give it up for anything. But sometimes we forget that these beautiful, even things like getting into a relationship, getting a promotion, starting a new job, starting a business, there's this also this sprinkle of grief in that things are now changed. And the thing that was true before is no longer true now, or at least not in the same way. And we forget that you get to process that. You get to be happy and sad at these beautiful, amazing life events.
Correct.
And I think that's why people sometimes struggle after weddings, because it's supposed to be the best day of your life. And it can be an amazing day. And then you're married and you're like, what's that? Oh God. Like you spend all the engagement thinking about the wedding day. And there's this whole marriage now that has to happen. And your life as a single person is now done. And that's okay. It's not quote unquote bad. It's just, you get to grieve that too. I think we forget that sometimes. We make it wrong. You know what I mean? Like you just have to be happy because things are great for you. It's like
people spend too much time talking about the wedding and not enough time talking about the marriage.
Yeah, the marriage lasts longer than the wedding day, as it
It
turns
it
out.
it, it does
Or,
by
well,
quite a
tends
bit.
to. Tends
Yeah,
to.
the
Yeah.
wedding's nice and the wedding's important and they're lovely, but the marriage is, that's where it needs to be.
Oh, yeah.
That my husband and I we just attended a wedding this weekend and it was beautiful, it was amazing, and it was wonderful. And they were doing the vows, and we were holding each other hand, and like, and we were talking on the way home, and I'm like, I know you love me. You love me because you, like, I had just gotten my nails done for the wedding, and I came home and I'm like, I'm hungry, but I can't touch anything because I don't want to ruin my nails. So he made me a sandwich because I didn't want to touch any of this stuff. And I'm like, I know you love me because you made me a nail sandwich. Like, so I didn't
Nail
smudge my nails.
sandwich.
You
Oh.
made me a sandwich. Like, that is love. That is,
Mhm.
it's not, you know, sure, flowers are nice and romantic dinners and whatever, but like, to me, no, love is, it's that sandwich. It's
Mhm.
that, oh my gosh, I need, I forgot my phone upstairs. He'll go run up and grab it for me. It's all those little things like that's love.
And I think where I sometimes mess this up is I think that how Ollie receives love is the same way I give love. And in some cases that can be true, but in a lot of cases it's not. And then we get confused. You know what I mean? Like we get really confused. But I did like my love, I don't know if you're into love language, like love
Right.
languages. I have a whole like acts of service, quality time. You give me a hug. If anything, I'm like, oh, get out of the way. I'm busy. You know what I mean? But because physical touch is like not even on, it's at the bottom of my list. Oh, this is the opposite. And so I have to remember that because I've done something for him, he'll be appreciative of that because he's awesome, but it doesn't necessarily feel like love for him. Same with gifts. Like you give me a gift, I'm like, that's so nice. It doesn't really feel like love for me, even though it might have been intended that way. Like it might have been sent with love, but is the person
Right.
receiving it in that same way? And that's where I think we get into some pickles sometimes that we forget that it's different. And it's okay that it's different. You don't have to find someone who has the
Right.
exact match to you. You just have to be mindful of it and like kind of lean into each other's thing.
You say I'm acting rudely, I guess that good. Love is hard to find. I keep a ring in your bell. Should I go or stay behind? I can never tell, oh well. When I say too hot, you say too cold.
We have come to the question round.
Ooh.
So we have just a few little get to know you questions.
Okay.
Number 1. Which would you rather have? Free gas for a year or a free 2-week-long European vacation?
The vacation, because I regularly am not good at deferring positive decisions. It's why I don't have a very good retirement savings plan. Yeah, vacation, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. That does not surprise me. I'm like, before I even
That's on
asked it, I'm
brand.
like, I'm going to put $20 down on the vacation.
That's on brand for her. Yep.
Yep. All right. I'm getting to know my new friend really well. All right. What is your favorite thing to drink out of?
Oh my gosh, I have it here. Not that anyone can see because this is audio, but a mug. And
It is a
specifically
white mug.
my Trust the Journey mug.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
I bought this mug as my gift to myself when I got accepted into, I'm going back to school. I haven't even told you that. I know.
Oh,
Our
congratulations.
best friend relationship. I'm failing on my side. I'm not giving you the updates. I'm going back to school for my master's in counseling psychology. So I bought this as my little reward for getting accepted.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because I'm going back to school as like an almost 40-year-old. And I'm like, what the F am I doing? Oh God.
Oh, you know what? It's
Woo!
fantastic.
Thank you.
You will be the best student you've ever been.
I think So
Seriously.
one, I won't be hungover all the time. That will help. And also I'm like, a little more committed.
You know what you want to do.
That's right.
I have gone for college classes as I've gotten older, and I went and got my master's, and sort of the older I got, the better student I was. The more I required of my professors. You'll love it.
Yeah,
You'll have.
I think so.
You will get more out of your classes than you ever have before.
Yeah, I think so. I feel pretty good about it too.
Okay, number 3. Name a musical artist, group, or an album that you keep coming back to again and again. Like someone you just love.
Oh boy. I have 2 answers and I'm giving you 2 because whatever. Too bad.
Okay. I respect
One
it.
is I do come back to the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. I went to a university that had like a big agricultural program. So there's a place called The Ranch. It was like a country bar. It was amazing. And the Chicks, they're just like, they're just so
Goodbye,
good.
Earl.
Earl had to die. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah,
the
love
Chicks.
that song.
But my newer obsession that I have to give a shout out to, of course, is my beloved Lizzo. She gets me going.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lizzo's fab.
She is.
She's
and
wonderful.
then she makes even better. She's fab and makes me feel fab. That is a gift. So yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
That is. She's got the juice.
She's got a lot of the juice. She's so good.
Okay. Number 4.
Okay.
It's your birthday. You can pick anything you want to eat for your celebration meal. What are you having?
Curry. A lamb gosht and a chicken tikka masala with garlic naan and basmati rice and some mango chutney and then some cheesecake for dessert.
Oh, you're a cheesecake girl.
Like lemon blueberry cheesecake. Yeah.
Ooh. Cheesecake is always my birthday dessert choice.
So good.
Last question.
Okay.
You could be Facebook friends with anyone, living or dead. Who is your newest Facebook friend?
Dr. Brene Brown. That surprised me. I thought I'd pick like Marie Curie or something, but Dr. Brene Brown, come on. That's a no-brainer.
Brene's fantastic. When did you discover her?
I discovered her before. I feel like I'm in the original club because I discovered her right after her first TED Talk. Like I was like, it hadn't even had a lot of views. It was going around in the coaching program that I had done. So it would have been, when did you do that? 2011, I think. Yeah, 2011, I guess.
She's fabulous.
Oh, she's so good. She's a game changer. Like she really has made me, her work has legitimately had an impact. Not just like, oh, that was so interesting to think about, but like actually I behave differently. I'm a fan. In short, I'm a fan.
Well, thank you so much for being on my show. Your stories have been exceptionally entertaining. I know my listeners are going to just enjoy this so much. And I have had a blast as always.
Jacqui, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that we're now friends. Now you're stuck with me. And I had so much fun just shooting the SHIT with you. I don't know if you're allowed to spell out swear words. Does that count as swear word? Doesn't matter. I'm so grateful for you. I had so much fun with you. I could talk to you all day. That might be boring for everyone else, but I could do it.
If I had a gratitude journal, I'd put you in it.
Well, you're going in mine. Dear Queen Jack. Yeah, I'm writing it in there.
All right. Well, that's a close of another fabulous episode. Thank you for joining me. If you had half as much fun listening as I had talking with Jess, you still had a pretty spectacular time. If you want to know more about Jess, I've listed social media links in the episode description. I hope you'll come back for my next episode. As always, I wish you well.